full moon in Scorpio coming in on May the 12th. This is going to be a very powerful full moon. I'm going to get into the astrology, numerology, and the Scorpio archetype. But first, before I get into it, I want to also mention this is a very symbolic time for myself, as this is when I launched the Shadow Project, the early version last year. So I have the Shadow Project now live, and I'm going to be uploading my rituals over there as well for full moons and new moons. So if you would like to dive into the Shadow Project, explore it. It is a community for breaking patterns, understanding the unconscious, and creating impactful, lasting change in our lives. Plus, it's also really cool. There's a lot of amazing information in there. I'm going into the archetypes. I've already done Black Moon Lilith in great detail. There's going to be a lot of amazing things over there, plus also a community of like-minded individuals, support for myself, and much more. So make sure to check it out. There is a 7-day free trial that you can jump in with and check it out and see if it resonates with you. All right, so let's get into the full moon. The full moon in Scorpio is one of the more powerful full moons, especially for shadow work, for deep transformation, and for also awakening more of our senses. Now, the Scorpio archetype is, like I said, it's one of the more powerful archetypes. It was previously ruled by Mars, now Pluto, which I will get into as well, because that is going to be part of this full moon phase. But Scorpio likes to go into the depths. We all have the Scorpio archetype within ourselves as part of the collective unconscious. And Scorpio opposing Taurus in the zodiac calendar, as we are in Taurus season. We already had the new moon, which was absolutely beautiful and grounding, and allowed us to connect with intentions regarding our long-term goals that we want to build into reality and also embody within ourselves, right? So it's connecting with our body, connecting with the earth, connecting with the practical realm. But Scorpio takes us deeper. So if you watch the new moon video that I posted on the new moon in Taurus, I also did reference this full moon, because this full moon, whenever we reach a full moon after a new moon, of course, we are invited to observe what we need to release, what we need to break as far as patterns, as far as routines, as far as attachments, what we can shift and change within us that's going to dial us in more with our intentions that were set during the new moon. So full moons act as a bit of a catalyst. It acts as illumination for us to see aspects of ourselves that we need to get real with, that we might not want to see. And this full moon in Scorpio could do this for us unconsciously, where what we have set in motion during the new moon will naturally cycle into some kind of release, right? So when we step into a new path, when we are embarking into something that we are in alignment with, when we are wanting to create change within ourselves, or when we're wanting to transform or transmute within ourselves or within our life, we're naturally going to be met with resistance. I talk about this often. So these are the layers that we go through to become more of ourselves and to step into alignment with the life we truly feel in alignment with, the life that we desire, the life we want to create and experience, etc. So naturally, these full moons offer a very powerful time for us to go deeper, but also can illuminate aspects within ourselves that are unconsciously tied to the intentions that we set during the new moon. So part of this can be a natural shift that we'll go through because of the intentions we set. We're already putting something in motion. So like I said, this can be a natural byproduct of what was put in motion during the new moon, or it can be intentional by you going into your own deeper work and going into areas of yourself for self-discovery and using the Scorpionic archetype to understand yourself more and to go deeper into the unconscious, because that is where Scorpio lives. That is where Scorpio resides. It's in the unconscious. It's beneath the surface. So Scorpio is one of the deepest archetypes in the zodiac calendar. It is also, I sometimes relate it to Aquarius for the intellect. Scorpio is of the psyche. It is the deeper aspects of ourself that oftentimes we tend to bypass unconsciously, not on purpose, or we tend to numb out, we tend to disassociate from, or not want to acknowledge because of deep-rooted beliefs or emotions or experiences of shame or of fear. The Scorpio archetype likes the mystery, likes the unknown, can talk about deep, uncomfortable things that a lot of people feel uncomfortable with. That is the beauty of this full moon and this archetype, is we can get real. We can get into the uncomfortable aspects of ourselves. We can illuminate aspects of ourselves that we may not have seen before, or that we may have chosen to not face. So there's a very strong component here with understanding ourselves on a very deep sensory level, a very intuitive level or psychic level, and also a very mysterious or taboo level. Don't be afraid to explore some areas within yourself that you may tend to feel uncomfortable with, and even areas maybe within life or within society or within family. Try to break through some of the barriers or through some of the levels of what has felt comfortable to crack open new layers of discovery. That's what this archetype allows us to do. Now, on the shadow aspect of Scorpio archetype can be very secretive, can be very private, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it also can be very contained and very protected and very guarded and controlled, because it is a fixed sign, and fixed signs, I've mentioned this many times before, have a little bit of a harder time to let go, to find fluidity and flow and trust with oneself and with life. However, there's also a very powerful aspect to this, is when we tend to hold on a little bit longer, we also understand more of what we are working with. If we choose to look at it, if we are working consciously, then we will understand more of what we are holding on to, and also be able to gain wisdom through the process of letting go. So we gain a lot through understanding our attachments or fears, what we're holding on to for whatever reason. So Scorpio does have a very secretive and very private side to it, although it can go on either side of the spectrum, where it can be in a very constructive aspect, or it can be in a very limiting aspect as well. Another aspect that's really interesting with the Scorpio archetype is the scorpion in our real life, in our real world, the insect, the scorpion. When it feels threatened, it will turn its stinger on itself. So it's very symbolic for this archetype, where we can feel threatened in life when we hit our lows, when we feel squeezed, when we're really depressed, when we feel confined, when we feel that there's no way out. We can turn to self-attack. Now, self-attack can come in many different forms. It can be numbing, it can be disassociating, it can be removing ourselves from life. It can be addictions as well. There is an opportunity here to see these aspects of ourselves through, of course, compassion and understanding that these difficult, more deeper aspects that we have within are very profound for transmutation. And that's another aspect of the Scorpio archetype, that it can transmute pain into power. It can transmute disassociation and numbing out and self-harm into alignment and into confidence and clarity. This is part of paradox, and paradox is very valuable for this archetype and for transmutation and, of course, shadow work. Do not shy away from going deep during this time, and naturally, because it's a full moon and in this archetype, these aspects of self may naturally rise to the surface. You may naturally see parts of yourself that you hadn't seen before. But during this full moon, this is all about going deep. It's all about going into the psyche. It's all about going into the senses. Now, because Scorpio is under the surface, this is all about sexual energy. Taurus is all about sensuality in the above. Scorpio is about death and decay. Taurus is about rebirth and form. So we do have these two polarizations at play, where we are encouraged to explore these deeper aspects of ourselves. Another aspect that may fall under this archetype is difficulty letting go. So very strong attachments. Now, attachments can be emotional, they can be psychic, they can be physical, right? So this can be a very powerful full moon to address any attachments that you may be holding on regarding past events, people, situations, or self. Full moon, release, let go of the attachments. Now, everything is energy, we have to remember. And when we are holding on to a memory, to a regret, to a resentment, to a person, to something that we're ashamed of, it's taking up space. It takes up space within our mind, within our emotions, within our psyche. When we allow ourselves to move on through maybe forgiveness, detaching, feeling confident and aligned with ourselves, becoming more at peace with ourselves, we are giving ourselves more space to thrive, to work with, and to be. So this full moon may offer a very powerful time, if it calls to you, for releasing any kind of attachments, any kind of memories, anything that may even surface during this time as a memory of the past that you may all of a sudden realize that you were holding on to it. Now, I've experienced this before. I'm sure many of you have as well. All of a sudden, a memory showing up out of nowhere from something of the past that may cause a bit of shame or a little discomfort. I think that's pretty much par for the game of going through shifts and changes within ourselves. These memories may show up all of a sudden out of nowhere. It may trigger a feeling of resentment or anger or sadness or grief. And that's completely fine. Emotions are beautiful, and that is under this archetype as well. It does have a very strong emotional aspect to it. And we need our emotions and we need our senses to understand life more and to understand the complexities and the dimensions of our existence. So emotions are beautiful. This isn't about looking at ourself with shame and anger. It's about finding compassion with ourselves, understanding that life is an experience, that what we've gone through in the past is an experience. And then how can we work on returning to more peace and alignment within ourselves rather than holding on to stories of the past. So when we let go of these attachments, if they're psychic, if they're emotional, if they're physical, if they're psychological on many different levels, we are freeing up more for ourselves. One of the other shadow traits that I would like to highlight under this full moon in Scorpio is power. Now, power, when we return to our true power, to our authentic power, is unwavering. It is a very pure and very strong and centered place to be. When we are in our egoic power or our wounded power, we are imbalanced and we are operating from a place that is very destructive. Now, destructive could be destruction towards ourselves or towards our life or towards someone else or something else. And that also is going to play in some of the astrology that's going on. But Scorpio was originally assigned to Mars as its ruling planet, but in more modern astrology, it is now assigned to Pluto. However, I do feel that Mars is very complementary to this archetype because it is a very, very strong archetype. And when we are in our revenge state, or when we are in our anger state, or when we are wounded and our old pains that we have not acknowledged within ourselves become activated, we can become very triggered. Now, we can do one of two things. We can do something externally with it, hurt people, say something in spite, do something destructive, or we can do something internally. Like I said, with the scorpion stinging itself, we can cause self-harm by harboring it. Both of these dynamics, either one, are going to create some kind of repercussion, some kind of after effect, the law of cause and effect. So it's going to damage something. If it is a relationship, if it is self, if it is something further down the line, if it is sending something karmically out into the universe, however you want to look at it, there's going to be some kind of ripple effect set in motion because of the wounded power, the wounded ego that comes up to the forefront. So this full moon can bring up some of this energy because we do have Mars in Leo, which is a very strong combination. We also have Pluto will be retrograde by the time of this full moon as well. When Pluto goes retrograde, it is a time for reflection. There may be things that naturally will come up to the surface that may cause discomfort. Because of this also being Scorpio's ruling planet, there may be quite a contrast of energy showing up around this full moon. Be aware of any sudden bursts of emotional reactions because that is going to come from somewhere deeper. It's an excellent time to do the shadow work, to do the deeper work when emotions come up, when they surface, rather than suppressing them or letting them out in a very destructive way. We can look at what is really, take a pause and look at where is this really coming from? What am I really angry about? What am I really sad at? It's not going to be the external. We all know this on this channel. That's what I talk about often, is something else, a hidden message deeper within yourself. And this full moon is really the time to go deeper. I also should mention we have a universal month number 14/5 in May. We also have a 5/5/5 day, portal day on the 5th. Now we have a universal month number 5, we have a month 5, and we also have the 5th day. So that's a 555 in a year 9. So expect powerful change around this time of the full moon or going into the full moon. This month of May is a pure month of change. This is a natural big 5 month. Two double fives are naturally going to bring up a lot of maybe new opportunities, maybe within yourself, feeling like you want to try a few things and take a few things on. Symbolically, the 5 has an open top and an open bottom, meaning that we can go into two different directions or many different directions quite easily, but that can lead to a lot of confusion and scatteredness and overwhelm. Because this is a karmic debt universal month number, it's a 14-5, which will require extra organization, extra care, making sure that your place, your environment, your mind is tidy. When we are more organized, we can take on more things as long as we are not allowing it to affect us internally, feeling anxious and scattered and overwhelmed. The more clarity you can have and the more discernment with the number 5, the more you can get done. So that naturally is going to be an effect for the month. The 5th day is going to be quite symbolic. You can work with the 5th day as well for embodying change and being open to change, or even how you can structure your life or your inner self so that you can take on more maybe responsibility, not in a unhealthy way, but in an organized and systematic way, so everything is dialed in really well. So that is it. That is all for this very powerful full moon. If you want to go deeper into a full moon ritual for this full moon in Scorpio, and if you want to deepen your practice of your shadow work, your unconscious, the collective unconscious, symbology, archetypal references, find me over at the Shadow Project. You can jump in, like I said, for a 7-day free trial. The link is below in the description area. Hope to see you there, and I'm wishing you all the best with this full moon and beyond. Take care.